Hey everybody, my name is Reuben Faloughi. Unfortunately, I can't be there with you all today because I am on internship finishing up my Ph.D. in psychology. Nonetheless, technology is a beautiful thing, and hopefully, I'll be able to share at least parts of how Rwanda has served as my teacher, and I imagine the teacher of others who've experienced Rwanda. Let's jump into this thing. All right, so I have about 25 minutes to talk to you. And so, what I want to do at this time is I want to do a very brief activity, and I want to talk about Rwanda before we actually went this past summer. And then I'll talk a little bit about what we actually did when we went. And then I'll close with some takeaways from my experience. Okay, so the activity. I want us to be present. So what I want you to do is I want you to sit up straight wherever you're at, or if you're standing, I want you just to stand. I want you to just relax. And on the count of three, what I'll do, I'll say one, two, three. I want you to inhale really big through your nose. Yeah, I'm doing it over here. And then I want you to pause at the top, and then I want you to exhale through your mouth. Ah, right? Easy enough? All right. And so I'll say one, two, three. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. All right. And take breaths in between. I'll throw some questions in between. Got it? All right. Let's try it. All right. First breath. Remember, be relaxed. One, two, three. Deep inhale. Exhale. Good. Now, I want you to visualize your favorite teacher. Just visualize your favorite teacher. It could be from grade school, graduate school, no school, family member, community member. Good. Now, next breath. One, two, three. Deep inhale. Exhale. Now, I want you to think about your experience with that teacher. Good, very good. All right, final breath. One, two, three. Deep inhale. Exhale. Now, I want you to think, what quality about your favorite teacher made them most effective? Again, what quality about your favorite teacher made them most effective in their role? I want you to keep that in mind as we move forward. So for me, my most effective teachers, they found ways to help develop an awareness of my own self. And that has led me to a greater awareness of others around me and the world around me. Many teachers have done this for me, and Rwanda quickly became one of those teachers, as you will find out. So, I have to tell a little bit of background story. So, in 2013, I had finished playing collegiate football at the University of Georgia, and I graduated with my degree in psychology. And honestly, I had thought I had finished one of the most difficult, trying times of my life, being a student athlete at a large D1 university. But this wasn't the case. So Missouri was my first time leaving Georgia, and to be honest, I thought I was leaving all kinds of racism behind, and I thought um, the racism I had experienced in Georgia was the worst of the worst. But what I would learn is there's this subtle type of racism that was everywhere, and that was very unique in Missouri, particularly given its history. And I spent my first few years of graduate school learning about that racism. And so in 2014, August 9th, Michael Brown was shot and killed by Officer Darren Wilson. And this was as if a veil was lifted off my eyes. I began to realize I could be Michael Brown. Michael Brown was on his way to college. I was just starting my grad program. Michael Brown was me, and it hurt bad, really bad. And so in December of 2014, I went to my first protest. It was a die-in held by 3 queer black women. And it was one of the most powerful spaces I've ever been in. To be validated by other people who care about your humanity and care about the issues that are relevant to you was very powerful. And so from December of 2014 to August of 2015, we protested. And of course, August 2015, I would receive an email about teacher education training. And to be honest, I wasn't even planning to go. It had to do with Anne Frank. At that time, I wanted to focus on black issues. And I was like, I don't want to deal with Anne Frank. I was being stubborn. And I deleted the email. Thank goodness for those who are persistent, because Dr. Malfatti, the person who sent the email and who organized this teacher training, sent the email again and insisted that I come. And so I said I'd give it a try. And this would be how I met Drew Kahn and was introduced to drama-based education. I was really skeptical of Drew. I mean, this is this white guy talking about social justice. Um, he'll even tell you I had question marks written all over him, and he had us doing these goofy activities. I'm like, this guy's a joke. And then he started talking about what he was doing in Rwanda and how he had used these tools that we were learning to help engage Rwandans in conversation and storytelling about the genocide. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, one, I didn't really have the background knowledge on what happened in Rwanda. I mean, Hotel Rwanda did some things, but I really didn't know. And what he was telling us was really hitting home, because these were black people, and I cared about it. And it's like, wow, this white guy is doing amazing work. And so once I got over the whole, this white guy is doing social justice thing, and was able to connect with the drama-based education activities and the work and the ethos, this idea of shared humanity hit me so hard, because I was so angry going into that training, recognizing that we're all humans and we all have stories to tell was one of the most powerful realizations I had ever had. And I knew it deep down inside, but there's something about using your body to tell your story and then getting other people in your environment to also do it. And to do it collectively, it creates a very powerful energy. And these tools, these skills, this knowledge and awareness of the shared humanity would be the spark that pushed me to create change on our campus. I won't go into too much detail, but essentially, like many of our college campuses, racism runs rampant, of course, with the dozens of other forms of oppression. But what I was learning is Mizzou was dysfunctional. Our administration, they didn't want to listen to our stories. And so it was my mission to not only tell my story, but get other people around me to share their stories. And so what this meant is a lot of protest, a lot of demonstrations, a lot of tough conversations with my professors, with my classmates, with sometimes people I didn't even know, just to start sparking a different way of thinking and being on campus. Because nobody wants to deal with racism on top of school. I didn't. I hope you all will Google what happened at Mizzou. But as far as the drama based education skills, they had practical implications immediately. Of course, for me as an individual, that shared humanity and storytelling piece it afforded me a level of compassion that a lot of other people just weren't able to reach at that time for very valid reasons. Um, I also was able to put them in place when I really needed them. So there were yik-yak threats where this white student had threatened to kill all the black students if they came to campus one day, and the next day we had 400 angry people at our campus who wanted to advocate for black students and advocate against the bigotry and racism on campus. And being able to use those drama-based education skills to corral those people and to get them de-escalated and sharing their stories, it was because of drama-based education. So again, tools very practical. And what it did was it sparked enough momentum on our campus to not only remove our chancellor and president from their positions, but this movement spread from Mizzou to over 80 campuses in our country. And it didn't even stop there. It went abroad. We had people from China and South Africa standing in solidarity with Mizzou and also questioning their leadership on their campus. So again, these skills, they're universal. Like something that happened at our university spread across the world. That's still surreal to me. By the end of 2015, I was convinced that Drew and drama based education had completely changed my life. I now had not only experience, but I had tools to do this social justice work in a very empowering way for myself and people around me, everybody. It became less about dividing groups and more about a responsibility for humanity as a whole. And that didn't mean we don't lose the nuance of, you know, power and privilege. But what it means is we can end in both it. We can have a critical analysis and also remember that there are more similarities between us than there are our differences. And so because of this paradigm shift and these skills, it opened up avenues to continue to create community and develop my identity and the identity of others and resolve conflict. Um, I've been able to create a class for the College of Education where it's intergroup based, where you sit in a circle and you share your story. A matter of fact, the class isn't even called a class, it's called a village. And it goes back to the ethos of drama based education. How do we create community to resolve conflict, to develop our identities, and to create community? I've also been able to speak at some really cool places, um, from community organizations, churches, all the way to Stanford and Harvard's. Um, so again, these skills, no matter where you take them, they're valuable, and they've totally transformed my personal and professional work. So of course, I gotta shout out my teacher Drew. Um, because of Drew and the Anne Frank project, my life is completely different. And Drew knows I thank him every time I talk to him. These skills have helped me become who I am. And what's funny is Drew taught me, but Rwanda also taught Drew. So who's the ultimate teacher? So essentially, what I'm getting at is Rwanda was teaching me before I even knew about Rwanda. How cool is that? Summer 2018 was the first summer since I had been a student athlete that I had just free time to just do anything. And so, of course, I called Drew and told him it was time to go to Rwanda. And I even did this knowing I was going to miss my sister's wedding. So I was committed. And this trip was so important to me because for me, it was full circle. Like, for me to have met Drew, I think once. Yeah. I met Drew once in 3 years, and I felt like he was my brother. And I knew this trip was going to be important to me. Not only to me, but to Drew too. I mean, for him to teach me these skills and to see the fruit of those skills. And so I felt really privileged to be able to join Drew, but then also our cohort. Shout out to the 2018 Anne Frank Project cohort. I knew up front that this trip was going to help me hone my drama-based education skills. Of course, because I was going to be able to watch Drew and study him over an extended period of time, but also because I was going to be going across culture and exploring Rwandan culture with Rwandans. That in and of itself is a process. And sure enough, I felt the full spectrum of emotions. And so I'll share a couple experiences, but I also want you all to check out my blog on the Anne Frank website. I really put a lot of time into it in detail, which I think will achieve another depth in what I can do with my time here. And maybe I'll come to Buffalo soon and do a talk or something. Right, Drew? All right. One of the coolest parts of the Anne Frank trip for me was being able to teach across culture and see the universality of the drama-based education practice. Um, there was there was somewhat of a language barrier where our Kinyawandan just wasn't where I would have liked it to be, and I think English helped, but not everybody spoke English as fluently as we might speak it. And so this really challenged us to really dive deeper into the drama-based education, using your body, not just your voice, but your body to tell stories. And what came out of the Rwandans was so powerful. Me and my co-facilitator, shout out to Maddie, we were we were developing stories with teachers related to social studies. And so, of course, pre-colonialism, colonialism, and the genocide came up. And so to watch the Rwandans create those stories was was words can't even describe it. It was such a moving experience to be a part of. I'll never forget it. I think one of the more sad moments was going to the Kigali Genocide Memorial. Here, it's like a three level memorial dedicated to the Rwandan genocide and also other genocides that occurred. And I felt like I mean I do therapy, so I'm used to tough emotions, and I did well for the most part. But there's one part of this memorial where they have pictures of the individuals and families that were killed during the genocide. And it was maybe thousands of pictures, and I just broke down. I broke down. I felt that suffering, and as I came from that area, Drew was like perfectly placed there to just receive me and talk to me about what I had saw. And he consoled me, and we were on the same page about what I was feeling, and he knew what happened. I mean, I think he understands the emotional roller coaster that trip can be. But I think one of the most beautiful moments outside of Drew just being there perfectly placed was how a Rwandan woman just slowly ushered me from Drew into this room called the Peace Room, where it's this room set up with chairs, and they have meditation mats to just decompress. And I sat next to a window, and she brought some Kleenexes over, and I kid you not, out of nowhere, this rain just fell. The window was open, and this rain just fell. It was like this cathartic cry. It was just a powerful experience. to just connect with that suffering, but then also feel the love of Rwanda also embracing me and kind of washing the sorrow away. Whew. Some of the more happy moments of the trip were going to Urugundo Village and meeting Mama Arlene and the kids who were living at Urugundo Village. Um, these kids have so much joy, and for many of them to come from the poverty, from the neglect, from the circumstances they come from, and to still have this pure love, it was just so warm to be around. And then to meet the staff and Mama Arlene, who do so much to help these kids, it was a beautiful reflection of humanity. I could go on and on about the hundreds of experiences that I had in Rwanda within the group, outside of the group, within myself, but I just don't have the time. So, what I want to encourage you all to do is please check out my blog and feel free to email me. I'll have my contact information at the end of this, and it'll give you a little bit more context. But to be honest, you got to go for yourself. For me, when I left Rwanda with a level of confidence about the world I wanted to create. I knew that I could wait for the world to change, but waiting is exactly what caused the genocide in Rwanda. People wanted to wait for there to be an intervention, but there was no intervention, and millions, at least a million, probably more, got killed. And so for me, I left Rwanda with a sense of responsibility for the world I wanted to create. And that world centers love and an appreciation of that shared humanity that resides in all of us. Rwanda knows me very well because it's almost as if everywhere I turned, the sun was beaming. And yeah, it got hot sometimes, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's like the sun shines differently in Rwanda. And I would learn, there's some geographical things that could cause it to be like that, but even still, this is different, you all. The sun in Rwanda was a reminder of why the sun is one of my favorite metaphors for how I want to live the rest of this human experience. If we study the sun, you'll learn that the sun, it's self-generating and self-validating. I don't Have y'all ever heard the sun ask the earth, "Are you ready for me to shine?" I've never heard that. I don't think it does. What I notice about the sun is it's self-generating. It's self-validating. It doesn't need anything around it to say shine. It just shines. And I think that we can be and do that for others, but more importantly for ourselves, you all. Y'all, it's time to repair the world, and the time is now. I think we all have the tools to do it. Everybody knows how to receive love, and everybody has the capacity to give love. It's something we have to practice just like any other skill we have. I have faith in humanity, and I'm committing the rest of my life to this work, and I trust that you all will too. Thank you for your time. I really wish I could be in the room to see how you all received my story and my experiences. Again, this barely scratches the surface of how Rwanda impacted me. But again, I encourage you to go to my website, check out the blog. If you want to follow up with me, you can contact me on my website, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Drew knows how to reach me. Um, I'm accessible. Find me on social media. Follow me. Follow the movement. And again, y'all, let's take responsibility for this world. It's one thing to be fearful and feel that, but you can be courageous, and that that courage can help you navigate that fear. And once you see that power and you see the world change, you'll know nothing can stop your will. All right. Be well, you all.